Alright, so here is my Hunter variant for the Master Abyss challenge in Crota's End. This is the build that I use to do the bridge encounter. This is basically a follow-up to the previous video where I cover my Titan build for the Master Bridge. I've now, yesterday I got it done on all 3 characters. This was actually a lot easier than the Master Abyss challenge, even though the Abyss challenge was pretty straightforward as well. Basically just do the encounter as you normally would, as long as you do it fluidly with few deaths and everybody moving together as a team. Abyss was fairly easy, but it was just more of a team communication and synergy issue, which can be an issue on LFG, and I did all my runs on LFG in 3 different groups, all random people, and nobody was in the same clan. We all just random. So I'm not going to go in depth on the Master Challenge for the bridge in this video, because I already kind of covered it in the Titan video. With all the modifiers for the raid and everything that you need to consider. And yeah, so basically I just want to cover what I use for Hunter here. This week for Crota's End we have Strand and Void surging, and so I wanted to switch it up, use Void, and just Night Stalker with Gerfalcons is all around one of the best builds or subclasses in the game. Gerfalcons is one of the best exotics, just for the constant uptime on volatile rounds on your weapons. I've covered this build many times on my channel since before the volatile introduction. Gerfalcons has had a history of it's changed dramatically for 3 times over the course of a couple of seasons. Now the addition that we have, which has been around for a few seasons now, is just great. Easy to use. Has a lot of survivability because of invis, which makes this a good build to do anything for the bridge encounter. It feels like the contest mode bridge encounter was a lot more challenging. And I know that the power delta is the same, but it feels like there were less ads on Master compared to Contest. I don't know if it's just me. What did you guys think? I actually didn't complete it on Contest, but I did spend a good couple hours on the bridge familiarizing myself with the encounter, but we just couldn't get the completion before Contest was over. So anyways, Gerfalcon's Hauberk, Night Stalker, Deadfall. The one fallback with this build for the bridge is the lack of unstoppable mods. But there's only 2 unstoppable ogres at the end, and you have 6 people on your fire team. So it's not like a huge deal if you don't have unstop on. And if I really needed to, I brought a fusion rifle so I can switch off my Wilder Flight. And you know, grenade launchers are very ammo efficient, so if you pretty much always have ammo, which means that I could swap to a fusion rifle and still have enough ammo to stun a couple champions if I really need, right? So that's why I brought my Snorri FR5 with Reservoir Burst and Compulsive Reloader, and Amalon Fluid Dynamics. Not the best frame fusion rifle, but I do really enjoy this fusion rifle with Amalon and Compulsive. Just feels really good. But yeah, I think I swapped to it at the end of my run. I can't remember. And I was also kind of messing around with some other weapons. Like I just finished crafting my age-old bond, so I wanted to use that, but then I had to, you know, I needed to use something for crowd control because I wasn't running suppressor grenades, and suppressor grenades aren't a reliable, constant source of crowd control. But yeah, so I use Vanishing Step always with Gerfalcon's Hauberk because the whole goal behind the build is to keep volatile rounds flowing, keep the volatile flow going. Volatile Flow is actually a seasonal artifact mod that we had in Season of Defiance and Season of the Risen. But it's basically just volatile rounds. But yeah, you want to keep the you want to keep your weapons firing volatile rounds as often as possible. So Vanishing Step is going to reload my machine gun so that I never have to manually reload it, or hardly ever. And then also while I dodge, I go invisible so that when I come out of invis, I have volatile rounds. So basically the dodge is reload weapon, refresh volatile rounds. That's why I use marksman dodge. Without trapper's ambush, smoke snare bomb is just not as valuable. I'll use it every now and then, but like I don't spec into strength at all with Gerfalcons. It's just the snare bomb is just kind of there. If you have it, you want to take down a champion, you don't have your grenade, apply a source of weaken, and it kind of has a crowd control effect where it kind of disorients the enemy in the same way that a suppressor grenade does, or disorienting grenades. So it can be useful for that, but I don't run Trapper's Ambush with this. I run Stylish Executioner because that's just going to have me flashing in and out of invis all the time, constantly refreshing volatile rounds. And at the same time, it synergizes with Repulsor Brace, which I have on my machine gun, so that when I do kill a void debuff target, I will not only go invisible and reproc volatile rounds, but I will also get a void overshield. The fragments I'm using Devour. So when I pick up an orb, I get Devour. Okay, so I'm going to have Devour, I'm going to have Invisibility, and I'm going to have Overshields on this build. And then I'm making my grenades better by adding Undermining for the 15% weaken. So this is just really, you just have a very powerful grenade on top of all the volatile rounds. Vortex grenades, just all around the best grenade for quickly killing targets and pulling them in together, debuffing champions, etc. Finishers make me invis. Why not? This can come in handy. It's just, I don't really feel like it's something you need to use. I think I mainly used it because, the build revolves around invisibility, but also because it gives me 10 recovery. And as a hunter, balancing your resilience, recovery, and mobility is very challenging because you want all three, or at least you want resilience and mobility, but you don't want your recovery to be below tier 3, for example, ideally. I can get away with tier 2 here, but if I hadn't had this fragment on, I would have tier 1 recovery. I've had tier 0 recovery before, and that feels really bad. It just feels like when you get critical, you're critical for a long time. So tier 3 is just kind of like the base that you want for all your stats for them to work, normally without additional benefits. It's almost like you're penalized to have stats below tier 3. Anything above is a bonus. And then so Echo of Persistence is kind of key here, and although it penalizes my mobility, it is worth it. There's a lot of stat penalties on all these fragments. Like I got minus 10 mobility, minus 10 recovery, minus 20 discipline, and then I cancel out the recovery by adding a fragment that ups it, right? So had I not had this fragment, I would have been tier 1. Had I not had this fragment, I would have been tier 3. But anyways, all these stat penalties, regardless to say, are worth it because Echo of Persistence is just going to enhance all of the void features of this build that I'm using, all 3. So this is just like an incredibly efficient fragment to have because it is benefiting everything possible. I'm always, if I need to use my invisibility and stay invis for longer, I can do that. My overshields from Repulsor Brace are going to last longer, which is 50% damage resistance on top of a health bar, right? So, I mean, overshields are still just a very good feature of Void, and I would say even still better than Woven Mail, because Woven Mail doesn't give you a health bar. It just gives you, yes, it gives you more damage resistance, but you're just kind of out of luck on your health, right? With a Void Overshield, you have that health bar, plus you have the damage resistance. which gives you time to recover your health, your base health, while you have the overshield. So I'm going to have an overshield for like, I don't know, 10, 12 seconds, whatever it is that increases the timer by. And then Devour I'm going to have for that much longer as well, which is just going to be more forgiving. I'll be able to space out more time in between kills without having to feel like panicked to get a kill every like 5 seconds. Because I think without this fragment, you get like 5 or 6 seconds of Devour from picking up an orb. So it's a brief window. So this is going to increase it to like 8 or 10 seconds. The gameplay is going to be at the end, so if you want, you can skip ahead to that, and you can pay attention to my buffs, and then figure out exactly what those times are. But and then Shadow Shot Deadfall is, Deadfall is a quick super and is a 30-second tether, or 25 seconds, something like that. So it's very good. So even though I only have a blinding GL for crowd control, as far as weapons go and abilities, my super is crowd control, because it suppresses all the enemies. So like, for example, at the end when we get all the gatekeepers, I can super. Or if my teammate is struggling just to kill one gatekeeper, I can super, if I'm not blinding them efficiently or whatever. And that's going to last long enough for everybody to, take care of the gatekeepers and control all the ads that are around the gatekeeper. And because they're tethered together, the damage that your teammate is doing to the gatekeeper is going to like have collateral and chain off all the other tethered ads, right? So that's the thinking there. Then, so as far as the weapons go, Wish Ender, just to have an exotic basically, and to have something to quickly stun barriers. Wilder Flight, like I said, it's a high damage grenade launcher. If I need to fire it at a yellow bar or champion, it's going to do a big chunk of damage, but mainly I'm using it for the for crowd control. Like I said, blind the gatekeepers, blind the sword bearers, blind packs of enemies that get too close. Auto loading holster, so I just pull it out, fire it, put it away. But like I said, because it's a double fire grenade launcher frame, it does, I think, 30% more damage than other grenade launchers, and add Vorpal Weapon to that for another 15%. So it really does do a huge chunk on direct impact versus champions, even without spike grenades. And I have the option here. I could have switched to spike if I really wanted to. If I wanted to use this like in a damage rotation, I could, because I can just put spike on, and then I could work this into a damage rotation on a boss. But yeah, disorienting grenades is more important for utility. Then my commemoration is something that I have a couple of these. I have my killing tally with reconstruction, which is my main workhorse, but I have a whole slew of weapons that I crafted just for Gerfalcon's Night Stalker, basically, with repulsor brace. And so that includes commemoration here, which leaves me, yes, I could have used reconstruction here, but I'm using Marksman's Dodge, and I have high mobility with Font of Agility. So technically, while I have Armor Charge, I have tier 10 mobility all the time, which means I get my dodge back frequently. Marksman's Dodge is also a quicker cooldown. So that means that I should never have to reload any weapon if I don't want to. I just dodge, right? And so that comes in clutch with machine guns, especially, which means that I can tailor make a crafted weapon just for builds with Marksman's Dodge. Namely, weapons that have slower reloads would benefit the most from this, like machine guns. So repulsor brace, Dragonfly instead of reconstruction, right? Because Dragonfly is just more area of effect, and it's just kind of has the fun factor, right? And like I said, reconstruction is just not really necessary. So yeah, great weapon. If you have other weapons, you could use, like, if you could just use a blinding GL in your primary slot. It just wouldn't be exotic. And then you can run like age-old bond or a void machine gun or a void bow to pierce barriers. Keep in mind though too, volatile rounds are anti-barrier rounds. So technically, I don't need to use an anti-barrier weapon as long as my machine gun is not doing overload, right? Because if my machine gun had the overload feature on it, then that would take priority over volatile rounds anti-barrier, right? So volatile rounds just won't pierce barrier shields if I have this mod on. So I took it off for that reason. So I can really just totally melt champions away with the machine, with just proccing volatile rounds and machine gun. You know, you're just out of luck. Like if A, you run out of volatile rounds, or B, you run out of ammo, right? Then you're kind of screwed for barriers. So I got Wish Ender, whatever. And as far as the combat mods go, heavy ammo, I do need heavy ammo with machine gun, so yeah, I'm definitely using ammo finder. You want to produce as many orbs as possible, ideally, even though this encounter is not always, depending on your job, what you're doing, not always that easy to go pick up orbs. But I'm making them regardless so that I can get my Devour and get my armor charge, because I'm going to be playing into a lot of surges. So my armor charge is going to be very valuable on top of, like I said, getting that Devour going. So kinetic siphon and harmonic siphon. So my machine gun, my Wish Ender, whatever, I'm always making orbs by killing stuff with my weapons. And then firepower, just for more orbs. And this is nice because it is a guaranteed orb almost all the time with vortex grenades. And so if I get rushed by a pack of thralls while I'm standing on the plate, for example, I could throw my grenade down, instantly kill them all, and I'll have an orb to pick up, and immediately I've got Devour. And by the way, when you pick up an orb to get Devour, your health replenishes completely. So having Devour is like having 3 copies of Recuperation on your legs. I've never actually equipped 3 copies of Recuperation. I just know 1 copy of Recuperation gives you like half of your health, or maybe 40% of your health. So I imagine if you have 2 or 3 copies, you can get close to all of your health back. But you don't need any Recuperation because you have Devour. So the orbs are literally Recuperation on steroids. Not to mention that now you've got Devour, so any kills you get completely replenishes your health and gives you grenade energy. So like my mobility, as I was saying, I actually have tier 10 mobility because of Font of Agility, which gives me 30 stat points while I have armor charge. Same goes for my discipline. So I have tier 10 discipline all the time because I have tier 7 here. While I have armor charge, I get another 30 stat points of discipline. So this is a triple 100 build technically. As long as I have that armor charge, like I said. And my armor charge is definitely not going to waste on this build for stats because it is giving me void weapon damage, which is going to multiply with my volatile rounds. 18% more damage with my void weapons, which, you know, commemoration mainly. So very good there. Don't really need harmonic reloader because, like I said, I'm dodging to reload my machine gun. So yeah, this is just kind of like this build works very efficiently at bare bones with the mods. Maximize the damage resistance. Fortunately, my stats are good enough on this build to have concussive and melee damage resist, so I get rushed by Thrall or Sword Bearer or Gatekeeper, whatever. I have that extra damage resistance, and Arc for like the Wizards and the Boomer Knights and stuff like that. I think the barriers do arc damage, but there's usually in Hive missions there's a lot of arc damage, so arc or solar, sometimes some void ogres, but yeah, I feel like arc is probably the primary, like Cursed Thrall, for example, or arc. So stack, I mean, if I wanted to, I could run harmonic reserves, which actually would probably be a better idea. So if you wanted to swap out arc resist for harmonic reserves, just so that you can, just have that much more heavy ammo, that would probably be a slightly more optimized decision. Yep, so all my surges here. So like I've said in previous videos, if you're using surges, you may as well use as many as possible, because you're not losing anything by doing so. You're only gaining, right? One stack of armor charge lasts me 15 seconds with time dilation. This adds 50%, so instead of 10 seconds, I get 15 seconds. So while I have my maximum amount of armor charge, 3 stacks, I have 45 seconds of armor charge, which just means that I have to pick up an orb every 45 seconds, which is to keep everything working on this build, which is easy to do. Even if you're on like a plate, it can still be fairly easy. Like you could switch, you would have time to switch to a shoot to loot weapon and pick up an orb. Powerful attraction, because I'm dodging frequently. This is just a very powerful mod to have on Hunter, because it allows you to go up into an area where there's a whole bunch of orbs. Even if it's a risky situation, you can just go in there, dodge out, your invis, you've just collected all the orbs. And at the same time, giving myself some grenade energy on those dodges from Bomber. So that's pretty much it. The artifact stays pretty much the same. I'm usually running monochromatic Maestro this season and rapid fire Ranger, or sometimes I'll run on strand elemental munitions, just for more heavy ammo. But that's basically it. So anyways, I'll follow up with the unedited gameplay. You will hear my audio. You will not hear my teammates' audio, because those settings are on my PlayStation that I'm not sharing, or I'm not recording party mic audio. But I was recording mine, so every now and then you'll hear me chirp out about something. And but yeah, oh, and I guess I should cover the Adept that I got. So I got my Abyss Defiant. This was actually my final run, so I knew I was getting Abyss Defiant, because there's 6 Crota weapons. Got my 3 last week, which means I get the other 3 this week. So now I have all Adept weapons, which means that when I go to the Master Spoils table at the end of Crota, I can purchase with spoils any Adept weapon that I want, and I hope for a better roll, because I will definitely not be using this. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Watch the gameplay. I'll see you in the next one, which will be Warlock. Got it. Take. He's over here on Salmon. Okay, let's count down. 3, 2, 1, go. I tried to keep up with you. Preserved. Okay, I got mid. Hold on, wait for the bridge to be fully built first. Okay, you ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1, I'm off. I'm off, I'm off. Okay, he's blind. I'm off now. He's blind, he's blind. Oh, I need help with the sunstop. Zen moment. No. Yeah. Well, GG's guys. Thanks.